Hey, you guys, gals, and bums, and welcome back to A Few Bad Men. All right, now one of the men I did not cover in the Murder Inc. series was Vito Gurino, known as Sacco or Chicken Head. He was called Chicken Head because he loved to practice his marksman skills by drinking beer and shooting the heads off of chickens running around his backyard. Now, I don't have a birth date for Sacco, but report says that he was 37 in 1942, so circa 05. Vito was a huge man. At 5'8", 265 with a neck the size of a fire plug, he was intimidating to say the least. He had a string of petty crimes until he was discovered by Albert Anastasia and put with Happy Mayonne to be a torpedo. He was open to any crime, assault, rape, murder, and he would confess to 8 of those that he committed during his time as Happy's go-to gunner. Vito was as brutal as any of the boys, and he had no problem killing a man for whatever reason. Now, he wasn't the thinking type of gangster, but he did own 3 bakeries and was a partner in several garages around Brooklyn. He was a member of the Bakers Union, probably just as a scheme to get kickbacks. So, Vito's arrest record goes as such. On December 22nd, 1925, he was arrested in Brooklyn for suspicion of robbery. The case was discharged 3 days later. On January 5th, 1926, Vito was arrested for felonious assault, a charge that was reduced to assault in the 3rd degree, for which he served 60 days in city prison. On April 24th, 1926, he was again arrested for burglary. Case discharged on May 7th. On August 15th, 1926, he was arrested for grand larceny. Again, the case was discharged on August 19th. November 23rd, 1926, he caught a vagrancy charge that was dismissed on December 14th. May 2nd, 1927, he caught another vagrancy charge and received an indefinite sentence in the New York City Reformatory. I don't have a date for his release. But on March 27th of 1928, he was arrested again for felonious assault, which was reduced to assault in the 3rd degree, and he was sentenced to Sing Sing on May 25th, 1928. By June 29th, 1929, he was back on the streets, and he was arrested again for grand larceny in Brooklyn, which was dismissed on July 2nd. But on July 12th, he was sent back to Sing Sing by a parole commission for violating his parole. He was back on the streets by February 6, 1930, when he was arrested for violating the Sullivan Act for carrying a gun. On May 26th, he was returned to Sing Sing for violating his parole. Now, if my timing is right, this will put Abe Relis, Happy Mayonne, Frank Abundando, and Vito Gurino at Sing Sing at the same time in 1930. He was only behind bars for a few weeks because on July 25th, 1930, he was arrested for homicide with a vehicle, a case that was dismissed. Now, not only were these guys murderers and criminals, they were also horrible drivers. All right, Abe Relis killed a woman with his car, and so did Pep, and now Sacco. I have to find the report, but I saw in the papers when Abe got his license revoked, and another one where Bugsy got his license revoked. So, all right. So August 21st, 1930, Sacco was returned to Sing Sing for violating his parole again. On February 2nd, 1931, he was arrested and charged with robbery with a gun. I think they call that armed robbery. It was discharged. Later that month on the 25th, he was brought in for grand larceny, again dismissed. But again, he was sent back to Sing Sing for violating his parole. Back on the streets, he was arrested for robbery on May 18th, dismissed. On May 27th, he was in the boot black shop when the cops busted in and caught the boys with a vial of opium. He was arrested along with Abe, Happy, Pep, and Julie Catalano. That was dismissed in the special session on June 30th, 1932. In June, he was hit with another tickle for vagrancy, dismissed by a magistrate on August 8th. So, obviously now, Sacco was running with the combination boys, and he was arrested for murder for the first time in Queens, November 24th, 1933. The case was dismissed. On June 25th, 1933, Vito Gurino and Pep Strauss borrowed Abe's car and took Joe Kennedy for a ride. Joe Kennedy was shot in the car. They dumped the body, but Kennedy had a death grip on the hand strap, and he was found holding on to it when the police discovered his body, causing Abe to get reimbursed by Joe Adonis. Now, February 4th, 1934, he was arrested in Brooklyn again for robbery and again dismissed. And like I said, Sacco was now with the combination boys. And it was him who casually told Pep and Abe that he just saw Willie Shapiro walking down the street. And if you watch the Shapiro Brothers video, you know what happened next. It was in the basement of a bar that he was a part owner of with Happy's brother-in-law, Joe Dandana, that Willie was taken and beaten. Vito participated in that murder. November 1935 and January 1938, he was brought in for vagrancy. Both of those cases were dismissed. Now, Sacco was a big, uncouth, sloppy pig. So the boys almost died of shock when Vito strolled into Rose's with a 17-year-old beauty named Gertrude and said, "Meet the wife." The boys were asking themselves, how did an ape like this get a beauty like that? Sacco and Gertrude met a few weeks earlier on a blind date. A few weeks later, Sacco put a diamond on a finger one detective said was as big as his car headlight. On January 29, 1938, he was arrested in Brooklyn for bookmaking, dismissed 2 days later. Now, Sacco didn't have a small booking operation. His operation stretched from Brooklyn to Union City, New Jersey. On February 6, 1939, Sacco was alongside the lipstick-wearing Happy Mayone as they burst into the apartment of Antonio Siciliano and Cesar Lautaro. It was Sacco that killed Lautaro's bulldog as he tried to defend his owner. A few days later, he climbed the steps along with Frank the Dasher Abandando of Felice Esposito and blew him away as soon as he came to the door. It was in 1938 that Vito took part in the brutal assault of a 17-year-old girl. The group decided to spare her life and pay her and her family to keep quiet. In October, Vito got his hands on $18,000 in cigarettes stolen by some young thieves. He took the cigarettes without paying and threatened to kill the thieves. He caught another vagrancy charge in November of 1939 and was dismissed. Now, in 1940, he was arrested in a borough-wide sweep that William O'Dwyer started. He served 60 days. When he got out, he visited Happy's brother Duke in jail. Duke told him that Happy had a list of people he needed to be dealt with. The first on that list was Joe Liberto, better known as Joe the Baker. It was Joe's garage in which Whitey Rednick was killed. He was not a member of the gang, so he had to go. Happy sent word to Vito to take care of it. Joe had since switched to a different garage, but Happy's brother-in-law, Joe Dandana, knew exactly where to find him. He invited Joe to take a ride with him. They drove far out on Long Island, where Dandana locked Joe the Baker in an abandoned house and waited for someone. While they were waiting, Joe the Baker was looking for any opportunity to escape. It came when Dandana reached for a smoke and found his pack was empty. He figured if he ran to the store, Joe the Baker would stay put. He wouldn't even know he was gone. As soon as Dandana slipped out the front, Joe the Baker went out the rear window without opening it first. He ran blindly until he found a passerby. He told the person that he was far from home and had lost his wallet and money. The sympathetic stranger gave him 40 cents that he used to get to his mother's house in Jamaica, Queens. He stayed there a few days, not knowing what to do, until Joe Dandana came knocking at the door. He told Joe the Baker that he would be back, and he better stay put this time. Lucky for Joe the Baker, O'Dwyer's office was now aware of him, and they came and took him into custody before Dandana came back. Joe the Baker was placed in Queens County Civil Jail in Long Island City. Now, this was not a hardcore jail. This place was for people who didn't pay alimony or who were in debt. The cells were not even locked at night, and they usually operated with a skeleton crew. So this is where Vito came to visit Joe the Baker to see if he had been talking. The deputy sheriff came to his cell at 11:30 p.m. and asked if he wanted to see Vito Gurino. He said no, but was taken anyway to the jail's kitchen where Vito was sitting on the table waiting for him. "What did you say?" was the first thing out of Vito's mouth. "I didn't say nothing," said Joe. Vito left, but was back 4 nights later. "Did you say anything?" "I kept my mouth shut. Hap's got nothing to worry about with me." Vito seemed convinced, and he said, "If you need anything, ask the keeper. In case you want to go out, the keeper will take you for a ride after 1 a.m. Joe had no interest in taking any rides. He told the keeper when he got back to his cell he didn't want to see Vito Gurino again. Sacco's face was too well known at the prison, so he gave someone $100 to go to the jail with false papers that would release Joe the Baker. If that didn't work, they would overpower the keeper and take Joe themselves. The person he hired never went through with it. He kept a C-note, and Joe the Baker called William O'Dwyer's office. Happy was getting frustrated. He was in the tombs yelling out of his cell, "What's going on out there? Why are these people still alive?" The word got back to Vito to get on it. Julie Catalano was next on his list. Even though Julie had never said anything to the cops, he was targeted by Happy because he knew too much. It was at Julie's brother-in-law's wedding where Sacco showed up and told Julie, "Things are too hot around here. Me and you are going to take a ride to Long Island. I know a nice place where we can hide out until this blows over. It should only be about 2 or 3 months. The only word Julie heard was ride. He knew what that meant. He tried to stall. He said, I need to go tell my wife I'm leaving. Sacco said, no, don't tell her nothing. And don't let her know who you're leaving with. I got a couple dames we can take with us and we'll have a blast. Okay, Julie said, but first I got to get some clothes. Sacco said, okay, meet me at the corner in an hour. On his way home, Julie's mind was racing. Should I turn myself in? No, they can get me in jail. After a while, his love for Happy turned to anger. This guy was willing to kill him. Julie decided he was going to make a run for it. 10 minutes later, 2 detectives sent by O'Dwyer's office were at his door. What a favor you guys are doing for me. What a spot I was in. It was get killed by them or face the hot seat for them. They were on their own now. By the summer of 1940, Abe Relis had finally gotten around to telling O'Dwyer about Gurino. Arrest warrants were issued for his arrest. Vito had failed to take care of 2 witnesses. Not only did he not kill them, but he drove them into the arms of the DA. On September 11th, 1940, a sobbing Vito Gurino ran into the Shrine Church of the Sea on 10th Avenue in Manhattan. He was crying, and he begged the priest, don't let them kill me. They're waiting for me outside. Don't let them get me. He was looking bad. His clothes were disheveled. He had lost 50 pounds and his clothes were fitting him baggy. The priest called the police, who came to get Sacco. They found him shaking and stammering. No killers were seen outside, but Sacco was glad to see the police. I never ratted. I would never rat. If they left me alone, I would go away and say nothing. But if they want to kill me, I'll talk. Vito Gurino was charged with the murder of Siciliano and Lautaro. He was not willing to talk, so he pled guilty to second-degree murder. And on April 8th, 1942, he was sentenced to 60 years. He died in Dannemora Hospital for the criminally insane of a heart ailment, April 22nd, 1957. That, my friends, is the story of Vito Chicken Head Gurino. I hope you guys enjoyed this little story to kind of fill in some of the gaps with the Murder Incorporated. I'll be doing a few more of these before I get into the next series. All right, so this has been A Few Bad Men. Keep your nose clean and don't take any wood nickels. I see you in the funnies.